Hi, everybody. Welcome to Module 8. This is so exciting. Here we are in our integration module, which at some point in my career here, I figured out that we need integration modules in all of the programs that we do, as far as I'm concerned, because I think we all need time, like, to catch up, to go over things that we've already learned, to wrap things up into how we are utilizing this in our lives in different ways. And so I've given you so much here. I've given you practices, stuff to work with the elements. I've given you teachings. The last module was really rich with a lot of consciousness work and changing mindset and changing patterns and beliefs. So here we are as we move into integration week. We're going to learn some more tools, giving you really powerful meditation with this module. And how do we keep integrating this more and more and more? And then also, how is this connected into service? How is this connected into what we're doing? I think that that's really important because, it's important. What we do, who we are is what we do, and what we do is who we are in some regards. And so how we're living out there in the world is an important part of being this integrated, fully integrated being that we're looking to be. So let's see, what are we going to work on today? Well, to integrate is to form, to coordinate, to blend into a functioning or unified whole, to unite. So I want this module to be about that personal reflection on what does it mean for me to unite all of these concepts in myself. What does my practice start to look like? What does my consciousness work start to look like? What does my expression start to look like? And how am I integrating this into all of the different aspects of my life? Not just, oh, now I'm doing a practice. Oh, now I'm having this feeling. Oh, now, it's how do we bring it all together and unite all of this so that we start to live in this very balanced 5-element theory into practice. So we're bringing all the parts together to support our life. We are understanding the flow and the function of the elements at the next level, and to be an expressed and lived example, a lived example of what balance means. And then how do we use this for our service? How do we start to integrate this into our service? So again, here are our 5 elements. You'll remember this image with our elements all in our little star here, and our yin and yang in the middle in that sense of balance. Okay. So let's talk about this a little bit more. We already got into this a bit in the very beginning, the first module, but I want to bring it back around because now that you've been working with it, it's going to have a different context for you. It's going to have a different flavor and feel. So just looking at this chart, you'll remember the chart that I gave you at the beginning of the workbook. It has this pattern, the circular pattern and the star pattern. And when you look at the circle, this is our creative system. So we're looking at how one creates or supports, builds the other. And so you can see that's very, a little bit obvious here, that fire creates earth, because as the fire burns, it creates ash. That ash compresses, that becomes the earth. And then earth creates the metal. The metal is born out of the earth through that process with the minerals. And then the metal creates water. This one's a little bit more conceptual. Basically, where this comes from is that when you heat metal and then it cools, water droplets form on it. So in a way, it creates water. It forms water. And then water, of course, grows wood, and then wood feeds the fire. So all of these are feeding. These are supportive feeding. So the energy feeds the next one. The energy of metal feeds the water, and the water energy feeds the wood. So we're going to look at how we can work with this a little bit more here in a minute in different areas of our life. The other cycle, the star cycle, is also important to understand because this is the destructive or the controlling cycle. And so here we have, you can see that fire can melt the metal can cut the wood can grow and break the earth and overgrow the earth can contain the water. So all of these are able to either feed or control the next one. And this can get very complicated as well. And there's different, I've seen different systems of study where it's very much more complicated, utilizing this one and this one equals this one. So don't worry about that. This is the basics. This is the simple version. But this can help us to start to look at when we are out of balance, when we are too much of something is going on in our life, too much of a certain emotion, too much of a certain energy, then we can start to look at, okay, what could help me to move this energy? And sometimes it might be that to move the energy is to do that one Qigong, movement. It might be to work with, that food, but it might be actually to work with the one that's going to support it and feed it. Or it might be even to work with the one that's going to control it because it's gotten out of control. It's too much wood, too much anger, too much frustration. So we might need to bring in some metal and work with conscious breathing, conscious breath work. We might need to look at how we're feeding that wood, maybe even with fear, with the fear of water. Okay, well, is this anger, is it stemming from something that has something to do with fear? And then, okay, well, that might be the case. So how do I destroy the fear? Well, maybe I could lean into my earth element. What do I need to do to be eating, to be doing practices, to be working on my trust and safety and surrender that's actually going to help to control the fear, which is going to stop feeding the anger. So it can be this super fun, playful way of looking at what's going on with me and what could I add or take away that's going to support what's going on with me, not just in the single focus of like, okay, well, now I need to deal with wood, like whatever that means. Everything is in tune, everything is in balance. So if there's too much over here, the likelihood is that there's not enough over here. So it could be that there is the wood over here and that's out of balance, and maybe it needs more metal. So it needs more of this courage, right? So wood, you're getting angry, your boundaries are being violated. So you're being resentful, and that's the energy that's inside. But what you really need is more courage and to draw up the strength of the metal element to be in a greater ability to say, these are my boundaries. This is what's real. I'm being in integrity. I'm being devoted to my higher, self and my higher calling and the things that I'm bringing in. So this can be super fun and playful. And if you start doing research on this, you'll find 100,000 things out there. So see what's real for you. See what's true for you. Start to play with it. What's true? What's true for me? Right? That's what being really integrated is about. So here it is again, same image, same picture. This just has a little bit more of a focus on the organs. So we're talking about kind of the organ systems in this way. And in this, we might be seeing that let's just pick a different one here. But if we started working with the heart, and we wanted to be on this one says, so you'll just see different words all over the place. So just get used to that in this study, that this is called the generation cycle. So it generates, it keeps building and building and building. So we might need some more on the heart. The heart is feeling there's too much. There's too much here. There's too much heat. So I actually need to, what's going to be, the water is going to control or restrict that. So the energy of water, maybe I need to bring in. I need to start to connect to the water element and do my water practice a little bit more to help dissipate. Like I'm going to do my fire practice to dissipate the fire, but I might also focus a little bit more on my water practice to help to put that fire out a little bit. And I like that when we start looking at some of these energies, I don't think that I've talked about these energies before, but the kidney, there's this deep sighing is sort of the expression of this. It's right? And then there's the liver is the calling sound. I'm not sure. A lot of times you see that as yelling sound is loud. Heart is this laughter. The spleen has singing. The lung has crying. And those all make sense. But it's interesting if we start thinking of, well, I'm really stuck in grief, or maybe you know somebody, they're really stuck in grief, really stuck in the crying. And where it's become too much. Like there's a certain amount of healthy grief and we're processing things healthily. And then there's also the grief that's just stagnant. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. Maybe it's not even crying. There's not even an ability to get to crying. And sometimes adding in that destructive, that control of the laughter and finding a way to find joy and laughter and cultivating that energy will sometimes help to break up the stagnation of the lungs and the stagnation of the metal element there. And you can also see this in the kidney. So fear in the water element, where so what might control that? What might destroy that? Singing. So it's long, sometimes you see in these stories, they would have someone kind of like walking through the dark forest, and to be able to deal with their fear, they start singing. Same thing. We're looking at, okay, that might help. I could let myself do some singing, and that might help me remove or move or help move some of the energy of the fear that I'm feeling. So it's really interesting as we start to look at this, how we can cultivate some different tools and we can play with different energies here as we're working. And also, this chart has something else that I don't think that any of the charts I've given you so far. It has some times of day that are associated with the elements. And if you can't see that very well, you can draw it up on the PDF from the back end. But I'll just read them out to you. Is the liver is 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. The heart 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. So bright sun of the day. The spleen and stomach is in the morning, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So the spleen and stomach, that's a really good time. We talk a lot now about intermittent fasting and about, for me, I do in the morning the tonics and different things that are going to support my spleen and stomach instead of doing a big meal. And then let's see. We have the lungs, says 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. So early in the morning, you can kind of feel the energy of that, the 3 a.m. to 7 a.m. when it's the mist and the cool, crisp feeling of that energy. And then the kidneys in the afternoon, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Interesting that that's the time of day when we want to take a nap. We want to rest at that time of day. We want to just lay down and be quiet, actually. We're kind of forced to work here in Western society. It's interesting being in Europe that that's not quite the case, right? There are a lot of people in a lot of countries who take the nap in the afternoon and they close down the shop and they take a rest. And that feels really healthy according to this chart. So you're also looking at, okay, according to this chart. So if I am having trouble sleeping and my liver at 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., I just can't quite, is my liver out of balance? Is there something there that's imbalancing my liver? Now, we'll talk about this in a minute. You can see liver I, 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. Okay, those are connected. So is watching things, looking at things, actually supporting me be able to sleep well at that time of day? Just in the inquiry of what are we doing here? Spleen and stomach, earth, yellow, brightness, morning, and then into the heart, the fire, getting things done, into the kidney, let's take a little siesta in the afternoon. And, we're just kind of like going through these cycles, right? So this is a magic square is what they call it. And this would have different numbers, and coming through feng shui and the Bagua system, we'll see that in just a second. And this is also a radically intense study. I am absolutely not an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination. I know people who've been studying this system for so many years and are really pros at this. But just a little bit of knowledge about this is helpful to start to look at. So we have these 9 squares here, and we'll see in the next slide the Bagua circle and the trigram and how this looks here. And so this is when we start to look at feng shui, and the very bottom part would be sort of as if you were looking at it, like as you are, right? So this would be maybe the wall where the entrance is to a space. And so this square, you could take this and you could overlay this over your entire house or over your office or over a room. So every room, every space has this square on it. And depending on what you put in the square, it's either helpful or not helpful based on what you're trying to cultivate and change within your system. So in these different pieces, I just wanted to kind of give you this because this is something that a way to work with the elements in your life, in your world. So you would work with colored candles or images, or for example, if you're looking at the wood element of wealth and prosperity in your, in the upper left there, and you go over there and you have a dead plant, that's not going to be helpful. So you want to put a super lively, yummy plant there, or some bamboo, something that's going to, some wood things, stuff that's going to promote that energy being there. And same thing like this, the farthest in the center, like that's a good place to have your fireplace or your altar. And fame and reputation is one space I have. And my teacher says that this is when you're dealing on a more spiritual level, this is more your spiritual self. This has a lot more to do with the fire, the spirit, and your spiritual development and spiritual work. And so that might be a nice place to put your altar. And Let's see. Yeah. And then if you look at maybe the metal element over here, oh, children and creativity. Oh, I want to have more creativity. I'm looking to get pregnant. I'm going to put some candles there, some white candles. I'm going to put something beautiful there that's made out of metal. And, we're just like looking at how we can start to integrate these energies more into our life. So maybe the center of the room and the earth, the center and the self, you might be like, okay, well, what do I want to put there? A nice, beautiful ceramic bowl, something made out of clay, something made out of earth. That might be really nice to put in that area of the room or my house. And then this is the Bagua, and you'll probably have seen this, and we're just looking at this as from a different angle. So they basically have taken this and then made it into that magic square. And you can see that it has the directions, the elements, and these same these same boxes, almost these same energies. And then the center is the center, the self that we just were talking about. And you can see that there is the what do I want to say about this one? It's the same stuff. It's just a different pattern and a different way of looking at it. And I love that the family and the health is over here in the wood element. And then it's like mature wood element. We're going from the family and from health, like making sure like that's the number one. And then we're moving into wealth and prosperity, and then fame and reputation or spiritual development. And, it makes sense when you start to look at it in this way. Oh, marriage and relationships, and then there's children, and then, helpful people, and we get to travel and work on our career, and then wisdom and knowledge. At the north, at the, the career and the wisdom and knowledge at the north, and the earth and the water, and this energy of more of a how can we say this? It's I don't know how to say it. The wisdom, the knowledge, the water, the career, you're coming around in the cycle, in the circle. So we're just looking at all of these things from these different perspectives of sometimes we're trying to feed something without feeding the thing that comes before is the thing that needs to be stated here. Is that sometimes we are working on wealth and these pieces without working on health and home, what's stable here inside of me, my relationships. And sometimes we're focused in one direction so much that we're not balanced in the others. We're not paying any attention in the others, which is why it's helpful to map out the house or to intentionally place things in certain areas, or just to intentionally have different items in your home. Maybe you have a home that's very modern and is just metal everywhere, metal everywhere. And then it could be very helpful to bring in something that would help to combat that metal. So what did we see? So maybe you need to add in some other elements. You need to add a water feature and some ceramic, some wood, some fire, and start to temper the energy that's too dominant. Maybe there is too much earth in your home for some reason, and you need to add some more other energies that could help to balance your situation. So just start to look around, like, what are you attracted to, and what are you maybe missing? because sometimes we get really attracted to something and then we miss some of the other elements in that process that we could be cultivating more of inside of ourselves, because we like to be in our comfort zone, right? So let's talk about this, the senses. I think you've had this somewhere before. I think on each individual one, but let's talk about it a little bit more, because I think this is an important part of integrating these elements. It's starting to look at where we engage in excessive stimulation of the senses, and which senses we are excessively stimulating. And they are the wood element of sight, and probably all of us are overly stimulated here. Too much social media, too much computer. I know I'm overstimulated in in the wood element for sure. Fire is taste, so that overindulgence and overeating. Earth is touch. Most of us are not overindulged in touch. Let's just face it, we're underindulged in touch. But it could be that we're overindulged in touch. Maybe we're a massage therapist and we're doing too much massage, or this could be maybe as a new mother, you are just almost like overtouched. There's too much people touching you all the time. You have too many kids hanging on you and you're just like overwhelmed with too much touch. This could be a thing, could be a reality in your life. And metal is smell and water is hearing. And so when we're trying to balance our elements, maybe we're realizing that we're not having enough, we don't feel safe, and we don't feel like we can really surrender to our life. It might be really helpful for us to go and get a regular massage, because maybe we are touch deprived, we're touch deficient. And you can think about, kids who aren't touched enough, they don't really feel as safe in the world. So that makes sense. And the water element, the kidney element, we've talked about this before, about it being connected to the adrenals, to fatigue, and how it can, so listening to a lot of loud sounds, a lot of loud music can deplete the water element. It can deplete the kidneys. So it's very important to get into some silence, to get into some quiet living from time to time at least, to help with that. And what you're listening to is going to affect your kidneys. So how about that? And then the wood element, so sight, and you'll remember when we were working on the wood exercises, I was like, open your eyes big, express through the eyes, release through the eyes. So that can help to balance the wood element through the sight. And we can dissipate our energy. And spiritual disorientation. So this is kind of complex, but spiritual disorientation might be that we're just, it's that sense of being overwhelmed. We can't connect to our own self, to our own spiritual compass, our own authentic expression inside of us, our true soul, because we're overwhelmed by sensory input. And I think we all are. So we might decide instead to spend some time looking at the forest and feeding ourselves with that beautiful green energy to help support our wood and to help us not to be disoriented on our path. And we also can lose our cultivated energy through intense emotional reactions and thoughts and feelings. So emotions aren't bad. Emotions are normal. Emotions are good. Emotions are important. It's important to feel them. It's important to express them. It's when we're overly emotionally reactive, like, and we talked about this on the last module. So you got a lot of information about this already, but just to be aware that you are cultivating energy through Qigong. And then intense emotional reactions and like, oh, like the thoughts and feelings, la, 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 it can deplete you. And you know that if you have some really emotional experience happen, it can deplete you energetically. And so then it's important to remember to cultivate energy, to, again, work on reinvigorating yourself, because sometimes we forget that, oh yeah, I did get really upset and I kind of like, it's like I just blew all my energy out. And now, okay, what do I need to do to bring energy back to me? That is really living in that integrated mindset. And that the energy practices add a battery to what is already there. And we talked about this a little bit last module, I believe. But basically that was the whole, like, why do I feel worse? But it's what's already there, right? If I already am ruminating and angry and stuff, I'm adding a lot of energy practice. I'm cultivating a lot of energy. I'm kind of feeding what's already there. So that's why it's important to be both doing the energy practices and the consciousness cultivation and the shifts in mindset and the shifts in habits and patterns, which is not easy. So just being in that integrated mindset of these are my habits, these are my patterns. So it can be helpful to go into the workbook, look at the elements. What are my tendencies in each element? You had a lot of questions there. So where do I become reactive is a really good question to ask. When do I become reactive in the wood element? And look at that little diagram here. We can look again at, so you can start to look at all of these pieces. Oh, okay, where do I become reactive in the wood element? Where do I become reactive in? Is it in my relationships? Is it in with my kids? Is it in with my health? Is it in traveling? I don't know. I become really reactive when I'm traveling. It could be. So I could become reactive in the energy of anger around my children. And that might give me some good information as to where I could be working. So it's a deeper and deeper inquiry as to where am I being reactive? What sets off my reactivity? Where does that maybe come from? Where do I remember feeling that first? And what are the new habits, the new ways of being, the new focus on virtue, the pausing and waiting and not being reactive, right? I know I'm reactive. I know I'm reactive in my relationship more than anything. So that's the place I need the pause the most. My reactive nature in my relationship is one more of anger or of fear or of doubt. So that's interesting. What is it that then I need to cultivate within myself so that that reactive nature becomes less? Oh, I need to actually work on bringing in more safety and trust for myself. Maybe I need to go and receive love and touch from other people besides my partner, because I need more touch than my partner does. And that will help me feel more safe. And that will help me be less, triggered in this reactivity space. So we're bringing everything together to look at where can I change myself in a positive way? And what do I need to do to call upon the elements to do so? What elemental shifts can I take to be able to engage in a different way? And this kind of takes some really deep inquiry. Where am I reacting? What elements am I going to? And then I want to talk a little bit here about the 5 elements of service. So how do the elements, the virtues, the cycle of creation inform your business? And this it could be a whole course in and of itself. I'm sure it is somewhere. And looking at, just remember our virtues from last time: integrity, wisdom, compassion, inner peace, truthfulness. How do we ingrain these virtues into our business? And when are we not in the virtuous aspect of ourself when we're engaging in our business. This is really important as we're looking at ourselves as people of service. Whatever it is that you're doing, there's some sort of service element to it, I'm sure. And to start to look at, where am I allowing parts of my business to override the true virtues? So it could be that I let, maybe overall, I'm not like a super anxious person, but when it comes to my business sometimes, or just the money part, or just it gets a little anxious, and okay, so then I am looking to cultivate that inner peace inside the business. And what is cultivation? This is the question. What does cultivation of inner peace look like inside my business practices? So where am I encouraging anxiety inside my business practices? Maybe I don't give myself enough time before I go to work in the morning, or I say yes to too many things, or I give myself too short deadlines, or I just stack things and I never take a break. So we can start to look at why the energy is predominating inside, and then come back to the elements, come back to the chart, come back to the virtues, to look at how can I support or control what I'm looking to create. So I might need more of one element in my business right now. Maybe I've been running on fire for so long, and I need actually to take a break and go into the quietness, find the wisdom of what I've been creating this whole time, take some space from what I've been doing, pull everything back, come in, and then create from there, create from that space. That could be a really powerful shift and change. Sometimes we don't like to do that because it's a little bit scary and there's a little bit of unknown there, but that can be a very important piece of how we're running our business, is shifting the elemental frequency that we are most comfortable in inside of our business, and then looking at when are we not being in virtue inside of the business. So these are the questions to be asking. What do I need more of? What is too much? I'm running too much of this particular energy in my life, in my business, in my relationship. And am I in tune with the cycles? So the cycles of this season, am I tuning into that in the winter, I need some space, I need some quiet, I need to go inward, I need to do more meditation, I need to just sit and do mantra. And then in the summer, am I getting out? Am I sweating? Am I moving my body? In the spring, am I starting to stretch the ligaments and really move my body a little bit more as I'm coming out of the winter? And am I in tune with the cycles? And this is an important question to ask, and to look at how the cycles are running in your life. And this is another thing to maybe tune into with your business. What does your business look like in terms of where these cycles are in the energies and the elements that you're working with? Are you working elementally throughout the year and honoring the elements as you go along, honoring the metal element as you go into the fall, and you start to feel that crispness, and you start to honor the allowing yourself to feel, there's a little bit of sadness there, and that's okay to feel right now. I'm going to honor that by maybe doing some rituals, honoring my ancestors. That's when we do it in the fall, honoring them, letting myself tune into that and do some ritualized experiences so that I can honor, be with completely, so that then I can move on. You want to be able to move on to the next element. And if you don't honor it and be with it completely, you can't move on to the next element. The last thing I want to talk about is the Wu Wei. So it means non-doing. And this is an important concept, and it means action that does not involve struggle or excessive effort. And so I know that some of you probably have been engaging in the practices with a little bit too much effort. And so how can you engage with this? Use the elements as your guide throughout the year, throughout the day, throughout your life, to start to allow more non-doing, getting things done with less effort. It says here is a mental state in which our actions are quite effortlessly in alignment with the flow of life. And that feels great, doesn't it? Like, I don't have to push this up the hill. It's actually coming down the hill as it should, because I am so in alignment with the elements, with the seasons, with my body. I'm in balance, and everything is spinning on that wheel as it should, instead of being like a wonky. If you had a thing on a wheel and one side was really heavy, it would be all tippy and weird. We're actually allowing that wheel to flow with ease. So the Wu Wei, which Pu was seen as this amazing teacher of the Wu Wei, and the Tao of Pu is a cute little adorable book. You should totally get it. I remember my mom having it when I was little, and I remember reading it and just really loving it, and I didn't get it. I was just like, well, it's Winnie the Pooh. How do you do it, Pooh? Do what? Asked Pooh. Become so effortless. I don't know much of anything, he said, but all those things of yours get done. They just sort of happen, he said. And so that's the wise teaching of Pooh. Allowing things to just sort of happen, allowing the flow of life to move through you, allowing that maybe you don't have to struggle so hard. And that's why we're doing these practices, to start to get you in the physical, energetic flow of less effort, less struggle, moving energy. Lots is happening, so much is occurring, and yet it's easy. There's ease. And the more that you practice this, the more it goes everywhere. So we can see Yoda now. So we've got Pooh and we've got Yoda. You want to know the difference between a master and a beginner. The master has failed more times than the beginner ever tried. So what is this mastery? It is consistency, experimentation, reflection. And when I was training to be a master gardener, I was told that the difference between someone with a green thumb and a black thumb was that the person with the green thumb had killed a lot more plants. And this is the same thing Yoda's telling us, that it's failure, it's trying again. So you're going to overreact and then realize you overreacted and come back to center and come back to your cultivation and take a breath sooner next time and change a little bit sooner next time. And any change is progress. Any change is healing. Any change is worth celebrating. Any change inside is worth acknowledging, even the tiny ones and the little ones. And that is the pathway to mastery that we're all looking for. So let's talk about this just a little bit. Can I share this stuff with my clients, with my friends, with my kids? Yes, please do. The small things are effective, and what is helping you will help other people for sure. You know, you don't have to be like, I know all these things. I did this course and now I'm the expert. You're not the expert. I'm not even the expert here. I'm just sharing, like, I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm just sharing what I've learned, what I've been playing with. And so it can be helpful to pull these little threads in. You know, if you have a child who has a lot of anxiety, it might be really helpful to and clear some of that energy for them. It might be helpful to do some of that tapping and cleaning because they're super sensitive and they're taking on too much stuff from their peers at school. it might be super helpful. Maybe you are doing some sort of coaching work or therapeutic work. It might be really helpful. Somebody's coming in, they just seem like they're running the edge. Oh, I'm the person who never cries. And there's this stuff coming up. Oh, well, let's just do this. Rub this spot with the lung point. Do the sound. Help them move that energy down the arm with the tapping or the dredging. And then from that place, go into what you're going into. It can be very helpful to just take these tiny little pieces and work with them to help support people, because you've seen it yourself. Just a little bit of moving the energy is very helpful. You don't have to do a whole practice. You don't have to teach somebody a whole thing, but it can be very helpful to just have a little bit of this, right? They're feeling a lot of anger. Maybe you just get them to open their eyes really wide and project that out, and then bring in that green emerald light and help them find that balance before going into a conversation with their mom or whatever it is, right? So these little baby tools can be super helpful, and it's totally fine for you to do this. Keep learning, keep growing, keep exploring, but it's totally fine for you to share. And so let's talk about a few other ways for you to integrate this stuff. Keep working on the workbook. The workbook has a lot there, and just keep coming back to it and asking deeper questions. See an acupuncturist or maybe even a medical Qigong practitioner and get some sessions. See what they say. Ask questions. Sometimes they don't tell you anything. Ask questions. What would be my diagnosis right now? What elements am I imbalanced in? What organs do I need to support? How can I do that? And tell them that you're learning about 5 elements in Qigong, and they will be excited. And we've had a couple of people from this course who actually went and had specific sessions working on specific organ systems while they were in that module. So this can be super helpful, because then you get a better idea of where you need more support, and then talk to them. Say, I've been studying the 5 element theory. I really want to understand, how can I support myself through this process? What do I need to be doing? I've learned all of these Qigong practices. What do you think would be the most helpful for me to work on? More lung, more water? What do you think? And just practice something every single day. And I didn't say this one, attend the local Qigong class. So there's lots of Qigong or Tai Chi. You can also go and it's a little bit different, but quite the same. And go and attend a local class, because it's super fun to do in person. This has been great to do online, but stretch yourself and go do it in person and find a teacher. And do that. It's fun. Go for it. And also start tracking yourself. Do more journaling, tracking your moods, tracking your cravings. What foods are you wanting to have? What is your energy as you're moving through the seasons? What's your energy as you're moving through the day? Are you honoring the elements in the regard that your body is actually responding to something, and then you're shaming your body for having the natural elemental response for the moment in time that you're in? Okay? So, yeah. And then what's next? All of those things. Keep integrating, keep working. I'm going to stop sharing. Here we go. I'm big. Just keep working, keep integrating, keep doing this work. This work is going to serve you for the rest of your life. If you feel like you need more support, more help on your path, you want to do some private work with me, please reach out. I'm always available to talk about that and what that might look like, and how I can help you on your path and your path of service. From here, I'd say that the healer's process would maybe be the next course you'd want to do with me, and work on your healership and take all of this awareness of energy and this mastery that you're coming up with in being an empath and understanding yourself and understanding the elements and understanding energy, and then moving into how that's in relation to who you are as a healer, as a coach, as someone who's supporting other people. Or maybe just you want to go deeper now, you want to work more on some deeper stuff, let's do that course. And then, of course, I have my channeling course, which would be kind of the thing after that. So, I mean, not that you can't do it without doing Healer's Process, but if you're just interested in channeling, that's fine too. But if you are interested, of course, reach out. I'm always here for you. Just know that this material is available to you. It'll be available as long as, I don't know, as long as I exist, I guess, as long as I pay my bill and have a website. So this material is available to you. Come back to it. Use these resources. Do these practices. If you get out of practice, if you stop doing your Qigong, just come back to the practices, start watching the videos again, and come back. Like, you can do that. And this is going to be available for you, and keep playing with it. If you have any questions, if you have anything that's coming up, you can always reach out to me. And the Facebook group is also going to be there. So if you write in the Facebook group, I'm going to see that. I'm going to respond. And of course, I wish you all the best on your journey and many, many blessings. And I hope that you have enjoyed this course. I hope that it has been beneficial to you. And I hope that you will sing my praises and write an amazing testimonial and tell all your friends, because I really enjoyed creating the materials for this course, and it has inspired me beyond what you can know. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for taking this journey with me.